following announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you back to the channel here for this pre-match buy-in as we look towards tomorrow's match away to Motherwell in a game that, after the late drama of Aberdeen, has just put a wee bit extra edge, a wee bit more flavour onto that result, because we'll be looking tomorrow and a tough task away to a team that, to be fair, are always well organised and always gives a right good match. It just got a wee bit tougher. The stakes got higher, and I'm sure that we will get ourselves in about that and be able to push on and find ourselves back at the top of the table. So we're here to have a wee look at that match and everything else in between. As I say, I'm Steve O'Matt. I will be joined, hopefully, soon enough by Paddy Boys out there at the North Sea CSC, currently getting himself set up. Technology on the rigs isn't particularly amazing, so we'll bear with that. But he'll be here to talk about that game in due course. But before we crack on, a wee bit of housekeeping. As always, welcome back to the channel. If you are one of our returning subscribers, as we always say, thank you very much for taking the time out your day to join Celtic World Order and give us support. If you're new, it's a warm welcome yourself as well. Just make sure that no matter what you do before you leave and watch this video, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell. And every time we go live, every time we do one of our uploads, you'll be notified and you will never miss any of our content. If you want to help out the channel further, it goes without saying, if you like what you're seeing here, give it the thumbs up. It helps that fabled algorithm. You can share our content. If you want to go one step further, like the bold 420 somewhere, you can donate to the channel by way of membership, and he's gifted one out to someone there. So whoever gets that is a lucky person indeed. Doesn't get you any additional content here on the channel, but what it does do is help with running it, because even though everything that we do is and continually be free, putting it together costs us money. It's as simple as that. So that's it. We're also on Spotify. Do not forget, if you want to listen on the go, you want to catch up at a later date, we are there. And of course, at CW Pod 1888, we are on X for more Celtic chat. So, big match around the corner. Motherwell away, 3 o'clock kickoff. It's not quite high noon, it's more high afternoon, but it's going to be a tough test nonetheless. And of course, we now find ourselves, because of today's fixture, we're actually chasing. We've always been top of the pack on goal difference. We had that 2-each tough game at home, to Aberdeen. They show their worth. They basically proven a few doubters wrong, that they are the real deal, that they are going to be something of a fly in the ointment for this season at least. And they went on, and a late show puts them top of the league by 3 points. So as I say, it's a tough away game. The stakes just get that wee bit higher because we've got something to chase. There we thought that maybe perhaps Aberdeen would drop points, but they have once again shown that they are here for the long run. They're something of a problem because they keep on grinding out results and they keep on finding a way to win. Some people would say that's the mark of champions. Let's not go too mental, because we all know ourselves. Teams will come and they will challenge, but ultimately quality, squad size, everything, finances, it's all going to kick on. And I fully expect, as per, that it will be Celtic sprinting away, but it is a marathon and it's not a sprint. And they're making a contest of it so far. So you can't say fairer than that. Some people love the competition. Some people would rather we were just leathering folk week in, week out. That's what it is. You can't please everybody. But off the back of what was a fantastic result against Atalanta midweek, that 0-0 draw that we were coming on here, we were waxing lyrical. People were saying, what were you getting all excited about? It's a 0-0 draw. But I think it showed something. It showed that we had, like I was saying about Aberdeen, that we had grit, they had determination, and ultimately we'd learned with a game plan and found it. And if you wanted any actual reference point to as to why that result was as big as it is, well, look no further, because full-time Atalanta 6, Hellas Verona 1. The highest scoring team in Serie A continue it again. But they just can't do it against the boys because it was robust. We frustrated them. We made them change up their game plan. They went from being a fast attacking football and team, get the ball down on the deck, move it around and cut you open, to being nullified. Crosses in, Hail Mary, if you will, into the box, limiting their chances to headers, nothing spectacular. And of course, with the dominating and, quite frankly, solid performances of our centre-backs, trusted the process, and of course Liam Scales. That kind of stuff was food and drink. Physical challenges for our defenders really prove a lot of people wrong, including myself. I will hold my hands up and say, Austin Trusty, I owe you an apology because I thought things were shaky. I was not writing the man off, but I was worried getting into that game. And how foolish was I? How wrong could I have been? Because he was an absolute rock. Arguably could have been man of the match in that game. I think the fact that it was an Atalanta player that got that, I'm not quite sure what those pundits were watching, but that's the way off. I can see Paddy in the background here. He's getting himself all set up, so he'll be with us in due course. But as I say, massive game around the corner. Get him in nice and early. What's your thoughts on it? What's your score predictions? How are the teams going to line up? We heard the manager giving us a wee update. Are we going to see any surprises? Of course, this is a fixture that when we look at the last 6 games against Motherwell, we are very much in the positive. It's 4 wins for Celtic, 2 draws, no losses whatsoever. If I go through the last 4, a 3-1 and away win, a 1 each home draw, a 2-1 away win, and of course a 1 each home draw. So Motherwell, as I say, as recently, they've been a team that have been worth their monies. They've been giving us a good run for it. They've been making it hard for us. And of course, we'll all remember last season, we'll remember Adam Ida's contribution, very much so. Motherwell was his sort of coming of age, if you will, as a Celtic player, a time when he really stepped up to the mark and he spun that game on his head when we needed it most. It's going to be very much a question of, do we go with that again tomorrow? Because we saw the plan in Bergamo when we had Ida starting up there up front. We knew that we were going to be getting a different style. We played in that way. It wasn't quite launching balls at him, but what we did get out of Adam Ida was a physical battle. He was wearing down those defenders. He was leaning on them. He was putting himself about, and it paid dividends because even though some people, for right or for wrong, were giving Ida a wee bit of pelters for his performance, personally, I thought he did the thankless task. He gave his all. He was chasing shadows at point, but he never hid. He was getting himself on the ball, muscling in, wearing down the defenders. And as I said, when we then switched it up, when we brought on the super agile, quick, fast Kyogo, well, the defenders were dead on their feet. And in another set of circumstances, in an alternative universe, we would have got some purchase from that. That they obviously chanced that earlier on. It was offside. And then with the second one where he was through, he snatched at it, tries to go for that Hollywood chip over the goalkeeper. But it just shows you it works. And I think that's what we've got to look at. As we look at Stuart Kettlewells, Motherwell, and we go into this game, what are the things that we always associate with Motherwell? Well, we always say that they are robust, they're well organised, and of course they are a very physical team. So is Adam Ida the one to start in this game? Is that kind of what we're going to be looking for? We're going to be looking for that physical presence up front, a wee bit different, or are we going to just go back to the tried and tested for the league format with Kyogo up front? Of course, this is with Carter Vickers being question marks that he could be brought back in. It gives us the options, but like I said, do you want to rush him back? In terms of looking at the performances of Scales and Trusty together, you've got to turn around and say that, well, trusted the process. It wasn't broke in Bergamo against, well, multiple levels of superior opposition to anything that Motherwell will test us with. Surely you can't change that. If they've got something good going, push it forward. Don't chop it up and change it just because your regular starter is looking like he could feature. And as I say, but more importantly, bigger fish to fry. We've got to be thinking about the semi-final against Aberdeen. We've got to be thinking about the game against Leipzig. You would rather, if you're going to bring in Carter Vickers, surely you would rather have him back for those key matches in a state of play where he's ready than chucking him in for a game against Motherwell. No disrespect to Motherwell, they sit 5th in the league, they're well worth their money. But you don't want to really risk these guys, do you? You want to have him ready to go. I can see somebody in my bottom here, I'm not quite sure if he is actually ready. Are you ready?
I'm here. A lot of technical problems. The Wi-Fi out here is absolutely horrible. We've currently got 188 people on using the same kind of login stuff that I do, so you can imagine the speeds that we're getting. It's not very good. So,
well, do you know what? We will run with it, my friend, because no matter how it comes about, I'm sure everybody that's watching live is happy to see your big fizzog on the on the screen. So anyway, Paddy, I am sure you've been listening, because why wouldn't you listen to what I've got to say? Looking forward to the game. We're just sort of reflecting off the back of what had happened in Bergamo. You still on a high after that game? You know, as the smoke settling here, we've said obviously we look at Aberdeen digging in, getting themselves a late win, just ramping up, turning the screw a wee bit and making tomorrow's already quite, testing challenge ahead. Look a wee bit more mouth-watering, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It keeps us on our toes. Fair play to Aberdeen for doing this. They are being, you said it before, resilient. I think the Bergamo result for us will keep us going. Again, a nothing each draw with Atalanta is absolutely brilliant. We've seen, was it tonight? They've just won 5-0, doing what they do best.
Well, it was 6-1 in the end, Paddy. 6-1.
6-1 is it? Wow.
There you go. 6-1.
Aye, so fair play. We know what kind of side they are, and we managed to keep them out in their home turf. So yeah, I'm quite confident going into the Motherwell game. We've got a good stats against them, decent record against Motherwell, so I'd be quite confident going in there.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to reflect back, because before we sort of dive into looking at Motherwell, as we look through the course of the week, as the smoke settles on that European victory, I think there's no doubt that sitting with 4 points after 3 games, particularly when you've got back-to-back games, Dortmund and then Atalanta, even the manager's been asked these press conferences, if you weren't asked, would you be in that position after such an early stage, would you have taken it? He says, well, of course we would, We had to bounce back from Dortmund, and obviously we managed to do that. But what surprised me a lot, as I say, is as much as we've had the praise coming the way of, and rightfully so, Trusty and Scales, who I thought were absolutely immense, instrumental in that, the managers had to come out and, in some ways, defend some players. And again, is Arne Engels. I thought Arne Engels in the first half put himself about. I don't think many people really put a foot wrong for Celtic in the first half. As we said before, players will fade, but are you surprised that the manager's having to come out and remind people, look, this guy's only 21, and forget the price tag. Give this guy a chance. We've seen his quality, but with his age, with him finding his feet, with him playing it, let's be honest and remember, at a completely different club. You're coming into a club like Celtic. He's playing for Augsburg, middle table at best in Germany. A team who are not going to be pressing. They're not going to have a lot of the ball. He's having to essentially change his role. And I know that sounds silly. You're a professional footballer and you've got more of the ball. You should be able to do better. But people maybe take for granted how much an adjustment that is. Are you surprised that some of the sort of off comments towards Engels that's came out at the back of this?
Yeah, a wee bit. I mean, listen, the guy came in, he's had a couple of cracking performances for us. Slovan Bratislava for one, he was outstanding in that game. Probably one of our best players on that night. He's had a couple of good games as well. The pressure penalty against Hearts with Shanklin shouting at him and stuff. He's been outstanding. Like you said, a couple of poor performances. The guy's breaking out in the Belgium squad and stuff like that, so that just tells you his quality. But as for the people not giving him a chance, like we've said, he's not going to come in the door. I think the price tag has got a lot to do with it. People are expecting him to come in and be as Matt O'Reilly was when he left. This isn't going to be a direct replacement for Matt O'Reilly. He's not going to be Matt O'Reilly. He's going to be Arne Engels. And whether that's better than Matt O'Reilly or not, best we wait and see. But I'm impressed with him so far, and I think we just need to give the guy a bit of a break.
And
he'll come good.
I think that's the thing. Frank's saying here, he's 21. It's not young for football. We're not saying that. We're not by any stretch saying that. I don't think either is Brendan Rodgers, because we've sat on here, Paddy, and we've turned around and says, at 21 or at such and such an age, look at X, Y, and Z, a player who's playing the Premier League or whatever it may well be, and are tearing it up. And that's all relevant towards where you have come in on your footballing journey. He's 21, but has had very little, next to nothing, in terms of being played in a senior squad. So that's the difference. When we particularly, let's just use Mikey Johnson, for example. Okay? That argument for me would cover, we're saying, he's such and such an age, he's not 16. Yes, but that's because Mikey Johnson was launched into the Celtic first team at a very, very young age. So we had that young start up to him being 21, 22, 23 of still getting no return. Arne Engels had something like 50 odd games by the age he was 21 and came to Celtic. So yes, age he's not young, but in terms of footballing experience, he is young.
Yeah.
And the manager's just mentioned his name, and that's what we've got to remember. Age, yes, on paper, it isn't particularly young for a footballer, but in his footballing development, his current stage and where he's been and what he's done, he is young, he is inexperienced. Pretty much, if anything, you could say he's slightly behind the curve in terms of the amount of players of a similar age and what they could have done. But that's a side note. I think that we've got to look at, even as you say, Matt Riley, look at when he came in and his age and his state. All right, he had a slightly different footballing journey. Wasn't costing £11 million, of course. But when he came in, he had something of a stuttery start. And there was a lot of people who were turning around and saying, you know, he's useless, he doesn't look the part, he's hot and cold. And there Frank's coming in to retort to say he played 50 odd games in the top 5 league. So what? He played 50 games in the top 5 league. That's it. It's still inexperienced. You know, it's like chucking me into a Celtic team. I'm 39. I'm not going to get into a Celtic team with 39. But you chuck me in again. You chuck me in for a season. You're going to expect the world out of me because I'm 39? Maybe. By the by.
Steve,
well, mate, I'd probably find an extra couple of 100 yards in my feet that I'd never thought existed if I got a chance to play at Celtic Park. But I think it's by the by. He is inexperienced regardless, and that's the thing. I think we've got to look at it and say, you are buying potential. Is it 11 million's worth of potential? Well, I've said this before. I don't want to cover all ground, but similarly to I said about Ida, I think if we started negotiating process ahead of time at the start of the season, that 11 million probably wouldn't have been 11 million. I think it would have maybe been closer to the original estimated value, which was about 7 million. Again, still quite lofty for a guy with limited experience, but again, we let go of one of our key assets. We rolled it down further down the line, and teams knew that. They knew there was money there. They knew that we were interested, and it knocked the price up. Similarly, as Josh said about Ida, and as I said at the time when I done the signing, do I think Celtic shouldn't be spending 9 million? Absolutely not. I think Celtic should be spending 9 and 11 million on players. I absolutely do. I'm not against that. All I was saying is, from an observer standpoint, was that we probably didn't have to spend 9 million on Ida. And that's another thing that's coming around again. Similar to Engels, people are using the fees to batter them around the head with. Yeah. And it's going to be slightly different. Engels, I can understand people getting a wee bit of frustration because he will start more often than not. And if you're going to be in the starting lineup, people expect more. As we discussed after the Atalanta game, Paddy, when you're a striker and you're, getting alternated between one and another, it is slightly harder. I think in terms of Ida, he'll do better at the finishing aspect of things, but what'll fall foul, what'll drift off if he's not playing as regular will be touch control and things like that.
No, 100%. Adam Ida, for me, just needs a couple of goals. He's a couple of goals short for his confidence to kick in. And let's not forget, the last game against Motherwell, I think he scored twice, didn't he? So another game we were 1-0 down.
No, this was a game that turned it for us.
So it's a game that he's comfortable in, a game that he's scored goals in previously. So, listen, tomorrow could be his chance to kick on and prove a couple of the boys wrong, and then that's it. Once he's got the confidence back, we might see a different side to him. And it's the same way on the Engels. Once he builds up that confidence and starts to realise what the players round about him can do as well, because, listen, they're still a new team. They've only really had, pre-season. They didn't really get pre-season, did they? So, get them in. They're learning as they go.
Yeah.
And listen, we're sitting top of the league with them still learning, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Paddy. We've just got to look at it. I just wanted to comment. Obviously, the manager's come out, he's jumped to the defence, and that's good man management as well. Of course, we know that from many players over the years. The managers will always do their bit. It's always important for them to come round, put the arm round them, shield the players. take a wee bit of the flack if you want. He's not necessarily taking flack for any performances, but he is just putting the arm round and saying, do you know what? No, forget about it. I believe in this guy. This is why we paid that money. I think, and he mentioned it as well, he says, whenever fans look at a fee, the expectation level is through the roof. That we will never get away from that. That's just the nature of the beast. But as I said before, he didn't ask to be made £11 million. Ida didn't ask to be priced at £9 million. That's what they were. And do you know what I mean? And that's just the nature of the beast. They've just got to go and try and do their thing. And I thought, as I say, I was quite surprised at some of the sort of flack thrown their way, because, as I said, I thought Ida done a fantastic job in Bergamo. Yeah. Maybe not in terms of, getting shots off and things like that, but his work rate was tiresome, and he really took his toll on the defenders, so that when the switch came, it made it harder for them. And some with Engels, I thought he was very well positioned. Previously, when we played against Dortmund, and we had Bernardo and Engels with basically two number 8s, number 2 marauding, they were going forward, they were leaving Cal McGregor exposed. I think there was just like, dare I say it, because I've been a big champion of Bernardo, I feel there was a wee slightly better balance with Hatate. And there, I know, Paddy, you love it, but I thought there was a wee slightly better balance there. I think it maybe helped a wee bit that, let's be honest, that Atalanta weren't quite at the races as well. It was sloppy in possession. It was a bit of a mess in the midfield from both teams, and that's how it went. But yeah, a lot of teams would have crumbled there, and things would have went the other way. Just look at that result tonight. As I say, they beat Hellas Verona 6-1, the highest scoring team in the Serie A, continue to do so. Wee bit, no European hangover there for them. Hopefully, no European hangover for us, Paddy.
Oh, yeah, we've seen it previous, haven't we? Coming off the European games, going into a game against anybody, and you tend to struggle a little bit. But yeah, if it's all right for Atalanta, I'm sure it'll be all right for us. I can see a few changes coming, though. I don't know if you spoke about the squad. Frank's
there we go.
Up there, yep. Who's that?
Luke McCowan. Does that work for you? Frank's saying Luke McCowan in there.
McCowan's got to get a start in there. I would love to see him. Especially going away to a team like Motherwell. I think that's a great opportunity for the young laddie. It'd be nice to see him in there. I don't know if Carter Vickers is back. Is he fit? I've heard he's training and stuff. So,
well, he's an option, but as I say just before he came on, do we risk him? Particularly after the great performance of Trusty and Scales. You've got to give them the nod, surely, and give them that wee bit of confidence that they grow in their game as well.
I totally agree. It'd be nice to see a little bit of change in there, giving some of the guys who came on and done well in Bergamo as well, give them a bit of a chance. So obviously guys like Trusty, like you say, he deserves his start. He totally does. He was outstanding for me.
Yeah.
Alistair Johnson picked up an injury towards the end. I don't know whether he'd be straight in there.
Is it injury though, or is it cramp? He did run himself into the ground. We saw a lot of cramp issues. Hopefully it didn't go from cramp into a strain. But
he did have a bit of a bloody knee as well, didn't he? His knee seemed a little bit bloody at the end. I don't know if that was just a wee cut or whatever, but yeah, we'll wait and see. He was, like you said, he was tiresome. He was constantly on the go from start to finish. So possibly a change there with Tony Ralston and coming in. I'd like to see Luke McCowan get a start. I think the front three start with Dyson, Kyogo and Kuhn. I think that picks itself. Either coming off the bench for an impact player against Motherwell as he does previously. I think is a great option to have as well.
So Paddy, obviously looking at Frank's team there, he's saying, Austin Trusty straight back in there as well. A wee bit of a mixing it around. I think, see with Trusty, I just want to talk about him because obviously that was some people say on our show the other night, a baptism as a Celtic player, a coming of age, a really rising up to the challenge. Now, after we think about this, when we lost Carl Starfelt, you maybe didn't realise what you had until he was gone. Now, fortunately for us, the Ginger Maldini, that is, of course, Liam Scales, has come up, stepped up to the plate, and, for the original outlay, he's shocking everybody. As I said before, when can we stop talking about this? He's a limited ability. Just give him his flowers and say he is a good defender. And I think, again, a very selfless performance over in Bergamo. He'll put himself out there, put his head in where others wouldn't. He's constantly committed for the badge. He gives it his all. However, Austin Trusty, is he the new Starfelt? Because I think that maybe unlike Starfelt, he's got a slightly better range of passing. He just seems to be so much better when all he's got to do is defend.
Yeah.
Because again, winning duels, being physical, putting himself out there. When they went to resorting to headers, clearing everything, winning those physical duels, seeing the game was in front of him. Fantastic.
Yeah.
The basics.
Balls into the box, like you said, the basics there. Balls into the box and clearing the ball and stuff. I thought he was outstanding. Absolutely fantastic. Carol Starfelt always had a mistake in him, I felt, as well. He was a bit of a bomb scare at the back. He did have that little, like you say, a mistake. There was always a touch too far or something. Trusty seems quite comfortable on the ball for what I've seen so far. He's not like William Scales. William Scales can ping the ball about. He can pick out a good pass. But I've been impressed with Trusty. Obviously not so much the first couple of games. I think he made a few mistakes and he looked a bit slow. But simple stuff. Heading the ball out, winning the duels. You can't fault him. He was absolutely brilliant.
Well, see with Trusty, Paddy, you've got to remember now, he got a lot of criticism because he came from Sheffield United, who had possibly one of the worst Premier League campaigns. They had a Chernobyl. They were absolutely horrendous. And being a defender, you're going to get that shade thrown your way because you're part of a disaster, let's be honest, right? But it's a development for him. Now, I'm not saying, again, you might say, well, Stevie, you're contradicting yourself there because clearly if they were that bad, Sheffield United were constantly under the cosh. But my point is see when you're playing at a team like Sheffield United and you're playing at a standard of the Premier League where you are up against a plethora, multiple levels beyond anything you've got, and you're going to be taking beatings and just getting, having to get bent over and taking was coming your way, unfortunately, for lack of a better term. See me join a team like Celtic, who are going to have the lion's share of the ball. They're going to be playing a completely different style of play. There's going to be a bit of a bedding-in period for that as well. It's going to be, finding your feet. And all right, we can look at Dortmund, and I just think that was baptism by fire, where everybody was like a rabbit in the headlights. But against Atalanta, he was facing some more challenges, but after the scars of Dortmund and one or two sort of bedding in dodgy performances, I think he's found his feet and he's able to find that fine balance, because playing at a team like Celtic where even the defenders are going to be asked to get the ball in the foot, their foot in the ball and do some passing and moving about, he's probably not used to that. He's probably not used to that at all. And that, it's easier said than done. You're a professional footballer, you should be able to do it. But do we maybe take for granted, particularly for certain types of players? Again, I come back to Engels. The flippy, the style of play from what you've came for, as I said, Augsburg, yeah, top 5 league, but you're a team that are peripheral. You're chasing shadows. You're not going to be competing in somewhere with Sheffield United. When you come to essentially the big dogs in the small pond who've got all the ball and you're expected to just do that wee bit more, that's got to be hard to have it developed, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. And the expectation at Celtic as well, we also spoke about that. They're expected to win every single week, so that's something that these guys aren't used to. A bit being at Augsburg, Engels wasn't expected to win every single game. Do you know what I mean? They'll be getting into games against Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, teams like that, Bayer Leverkusen, and they're not going to be expected to win. They're going to be on the back foot like we were against Dortmund, not having all the possession and things like that. When it comes to the league, it's totally different for us because we do have the lion's share of possession. We do have the ball on a regular basis. So it's an adaptation, shall we say, being able to adapt your game. And like you say, they are professional footballers, and you'd expect them to be able to do that. To quote Roy Keane, just do your job, isn't it? Just you're doing his job, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. We want the players to play out from the back, but also what he showed that he does have during the Atalanta game as well is he's not scared to just punt the ball away. Mm-hmm. There's a few times as well when the ball came in and he had the initiative to not play the pass out, to just get it away, Rose Ed, and that's quite good as well. I think, I totally agree with this. I can't wait to see the partnership. But then again, Liam Scales.
How does that come about? How does it come about though? That's the thing. How does it come about?
For me, Scales has been brilliant. He's done his job. We were calling for his head at points last year alongside Greg Taylor, and this year I can't fault him. He's had a couple of dodgy bits here and there, but all in all, he's had an absolutely cracking season.
So, Paddy, see with that Frank's saying, and something you've been pushing for and saying, I can't wait, because let's be honest, if you go and spend the bones of £6 million on Austin Trusty, it's clear that he's not. Now, we've been championing and saying Celtic should have the base level of their players, bench or otherwise, should be about 5 million, 6 million. Raise the standard, raise the price, and it gives you a quality across the board. And then obviously if you sell on yada, 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 you can make more money, more regular, sustainable profit and all that kind of nonsense, right? But the point is, let's face it, at that price point, it was probably brought in to be the heir apparent to Scales, take over and be the stick-on left-sided partnership. We've obviously got the 4.5 million Narotsky still sliding about. Who knows what's happening there? Of course, it was on the bench in Bergamo, didn't feature. But something that we never really do, we always cycle the subs about the 60, 65 minute mark. As we said, Paddy, where we says, how do we keep both Kyogo and Ida? The term we used was warm at best, where they can come on and hit the ground running, they're not rusty and out of sorts. Would you like to see us mixing that up if we are, say, ahead around that 60-minute mark, alternating between, Scales off, Trusty on, or one or the other, and trying to get two partnerships that can work? And then you've got that option where it's not a case of they're waiting in the wings to come on if we need them. Have them both getting regularish time. Is that the solution?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'd like to also see three at the back at some points for the overlapping wingers, but Brendan doesn't often change the formation. I think something like a kind of 3-5-1 in there, I think that'd be awesome. But then you're kind of nullifying that by dropping, you'd have to drop either Pruden or Dyson, and that's not really feasible, is it? So, yeah, I'd like to see a bit of alternation in there, bringing, like you said, taking off Trusty, bringing on Scales, or taking off Scales, bringing on Trusty. Giving them that time, because having that partnership in there, bringing a guy off the bench that you can trust, is absolutely
pun intended.
Pun intended, yeah. Trust and trusty, as it says, isn't it?
Well, Paddy, one thing that we mentioned previously, and we got to see him coming on, and as we say, shock, a lot of work went in for his short cameo. Luis Palma. Now, we're talking about mixing things up, bringing in a Luke McCown for the game against Motherwell. Is there room for a shock start, or at least a decent 65 minutes onwards performance and coming on for Luis Palma? Are you looking at this game against Motherwell, as tough and organised as they are you looking at this as an opportunity to maybe just bring these guys into the fold a wee bit more?
See if we're sitting about 2-0 around the 60th minute mark, I could see some changes like that. Bringing on Palma and bringing on maybe Yang, giving them minutes, James A. Forrest even. Obviously, Ida's going to come on. Bernardo, I think, will start. I see the guys here talking about Bernardo. I think Bernardo will start in there.
And who does he go off? Bernardo, if you're starting him, bearing in mind, I thought Hatate looked sharp against Atalanta.
Yeah.
Is Engels the guy that comes out, or does the manager double down because of some of the criticisms that came the way of Engels, fires him straight back in, says, there you go, son, return to form?
Brendan likes to double down, doesn't he? He's proved that many times. I don't think he'll bench Engels. I can't see that happening. I think Engels would be in there. I think it'd be real. And
do you think that would be because he trusts him, or do you think that would just be to further protect him from this so-called media and some corners of our fan base criticisms?
I think it's to give him a chance to prove himself. I think Brendan, like you said, the doubling down thing, he likes to do that. He likes to stick with what he knows as well. It's always been a change between Rio and Paulo in there, and I don't know if they started together. Maybe when Matt O'Reilly left, when we didn't have a replacement, you maybe had the two of them in there. But yeah, they seem to be the kind of two that make way, essentially. Obviously, Callum's in there, he's a stalwart. That's, I don't even know. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to see Paulo start, but I don't think it's going to happen.
We're only a wee couple of hours away from, but let's have a look at the oppositions. We always do here. We look at Motherwell. I think Motherwell have been, obviously, they've been the outstanding team that have been getting the high praise because of where they are and about that. Also, with Dundee United fall to that 1-0, they're spurring around in that fourth. Obviously, we get the baddies in third. Motherwell are a quiet fifth. I think, and I was quite surprised. I know it sounds a bit daft because we should have a finger in the pulse and look at these things, but for some reason I had in my head that Motherwell had an absolute horrendous start to the season. But they haven't. Much to my surprise. I mean, I actually look, and as I say, looking at their fifth in the league, they've scored 11 goals, they've 9 against, they're +2, so they're not scoring a lot, but they're not conceding a lot. And in their last, their form, recent 5, they've won 3 and they've lost 2. Fifth in the league, sitting there not too bad this season. In terms of the last 6 games against ourselves, they've drew 2, they've lost 4. Obviously, we had 3-1 away win last time round, a 1 each draw at home versus them, a 2-1 away win, another 1 each draw at home. So, they give us problems. They do give us problems. I think Stuart Kettlewells, for everything that people want to say about him, he sets his teams out very, very well organised. They might not be scoring a barrel load of goals, but similar to maybe an Aberdeen, they're finding themselves difficult to beat. Okay, they might be picking up draws in the league, but if you're Motherwell, that's as good as a win, is it not?
Yeah, listen, a draw against us is phenomenal for them, let's be honest. Danger men for me are going to be guys like young Lennon Miller as well. Obviously, he was on our targets. Steve O'Donnell at the back, I quite like him as well. I think he's a decent enough player. Who's the other guy as well? Up front, I think that's one of our strikers is on 2 goals, isn't he?
Yeah, so I mean, looking at the guys that we've got to sort of worry about, well, obviously the outstanding candidate is young Lennon Miller. 4 goals and 3 assists so far, no competitions. Undoubtedly, he is their Arnott Engels. He's their young, bright, upcoming, exciting midfielder. I think we've obviously got Luke McCowan, and I'm not discrediting him. I think a fantastic sign. I want to see more of him, and I think this game tomorrow's tailor-made for him. I would put him in probably before Engels, before Hatate, before Bernardo, dare I say, as well. I would absolutely give him the opportunity. I think he'd thrive in a game like this, so it'd be interesting to see if he's going to be one that comes in. But Lennon Miller is somebody that arguably folks said we should have had our eye on. And I do agree to an extent, but again, when we look at the absolute barrel load of talent that we've got in, I wouldn't want us to go and sign a young guy like him to be to the detriment of his career. And what I mean by that is you want to see these young guys thriving. You don't want them to be another, Riordan or Scott Allen or so. You just sign. And before anybody gets in their head, there's no chance of him going to Rangers because he costs something called money. So it's not going to happen. So I'd rather he was lost to another English team or somewhere that we see guys like Ferguson that goes abroad and develops his career and becomes good for the Scotland setup and kicks on, than comes to us. Do I think he could work his way into our team? Potentially. But I think it would be a real misstep for him. I wouldn't say no to him if he were going to be able to get him at a decent price. But I think that he would, as Frank says, he would inevitably just sit on the bench, and I think it'd be to the detriment of young guys' talents. But yes, sorry, I digress. Lennon Miller, key man, undoubtedly. I am going to try and say it. They've obviously got their strikers, which is Moses Ibige. Again, 4 goals this season. The Nigerian striker, no assists. And of course there is... Oh, here we go, Paddy. Stamatopoulos. 1 goal so far, but he's played their last 2 games. But he's injured. He was brought in as one of their main strikers as well. So that's kind of what we've got to deal with. But surprisingly, and folk might be surprised, as you've mentioned, O'Donnell and the likes at the back, Miller and an Andy Halliday are the standout players. Andy Halliday, 1 goal, not a lot, 3 assists, but they're the 2 guys in the centre. They're the guys in the engine room making it happen for them. As I say, when you look at the amount of goals they scored, they don't score a lot of goals. Lennon Miller's their outstanding candidate with 4 goals in all competitions. But it's a wee goal here, one there, one there, one there, and it's just chipped about the pitch. But those 2 are the main guys that we've got to look at is Miller and Halliday, and folk will go, ha ha, Halliday, bring it on. But he's having something a wee bit of a career renaissance at the moment at Motherwell, and he's fitting into a mid-level team as a mid-level player.
Yeah, and that's it. Coming up against Celtic, I think these guys are decent. They've had a kind of decent enough season, start to the season, obviously. Lennon Miller, you've pointed him out. He is, for me, the standout in the team. He's the danger man. It's going to be up against probably like Callum McGregor in the middle of the park, yeah, probably on the angles. However, I hope not. But yeah, he's going to be in there against these guys. So I think he'll be nullified in there against Celtic. I don't think it really causes any problems. So yeah, I'm quite comfortable coming up against him.
There we go. There's the debate's coming about Rio. The debate's coming. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Who knows? But no, and see, in terms of that, without flogging a dead horse, there's limited things you can say about the opposition tomorrow. It says, you know, Stamatopoulos, 1 goal. He was injured. He was brought in. It was very unfortunate. He got injured very, very early on. They've tried to wean him in their last 2 games. They had their last game at home. Disappointing, pardon me, 1-0 defeat to Dundee. So they'll be looking to bounce back. Obviously, they've had Ibiye as well, Nigerian striker. He's been not doing too bad, but as I say, there's not, fortunately, you could call it fortunately for us, there's not one. Usually we profile a player, a team, there's 1, 2, 3 guys who go, oh, you got to shut them down. They don't really seem to be blessed with that. Motherwell are just, much like ourselves were away in Bergamo, it's a very joint-up performance from everyone. It's workmanlike. You know, Steelmen by name, Steelmen by nature. They're hardy, they work, they do the graft, and as I say, yeah, 5th place, 13 points, not amazing, but they are grinding out draws and getting the occasional win, nicking a win here and there and things like that. So they just make themselves compact and hard to beat. So again, it comes back to it. Are we going to be troubled from a on-fire striker? Well, no, we're not. And that should be enough food and drink, as I say, for our defenders to deal with. However, the midfield battle, and it is usually it's cliche, but it is normally the key battle in most games. But particularly with Lennon Miller in there, as I say, and obviously they've got, whether you like him or hate him, you've got Andy Halliday, you know exactly what he is, you know what you're going to get out of him. And if there's ever going to be a game he's going to be fired up for, it's going to be this. So the midfield battle is going to be absolutely key for us. So again, in terms of that rotation, how does that work for you, Paddy? You're the biggest fan of Hatate all day long. Would you go away? I know we've had he's not going to drop Engels thing, but maybe. Would you rather see McCowan and Hatate in there alongside McGregor? Get a bit of grit, get a bit of fire in their belly, a bit of all action?
I think a change would be good, obviously. However, I can't see it being McCowan and Hatate. I think that'd be maybe too much of a change in there. Arnie Engels, like we said, Brendan's going to double down on this. I'll tell you that right now. I'd be extremely surprised if Arnie Engels doesn't start. Brendan's come out and obviously defended the young lad. And yeah, Brown, for once, I actually agree with you a little bit there.
You know, I brought this up because I actually think, and a lot of folk won't like it, but I think it's a fantastic point where he says that for him, Ncham is the Japanese Ncham. He says Hatate is the Japanese Ncham. 1 good game in 5, and wee glimpses of what he has in the other 4. It's a bold statement. A lot of folk don't like that. And the one thing that we're always about here on Celtic World Order is telling the truth, what you see with your eyes. He has been a fantastic player. He is a fantastic player. He's a great, great talent. Injuries, yes. But there has been those inconsistencies there, hasn't there?
Yeah, that's it. He always plays a difficult pass. And that, for me, is where this inconsistency comes in. If he did play the simple pass, would he be as loved as what he is. No, he wouldn't. I don't think if he was just doing the Barry Ferguson role in there, passing the ball from side to side and occasionally backwards, never going forwards. Now, yeah, that's good for some players, but Rio for me is the kind of playmaker person. He's the person who looks for that dangerous pass and makes it, or tries to make it. Listen, seven out of 10 times he gets it.
I'm going to put you in the spot, Paddy, and I want, if you're in the comments, fire names at me. Brown says he is the Japanese Encham. If you were to compare, Paddy, Hatate to a player of the past that we've had at Celtic, who is he most similar to? And that can be anybody you want. Obviously, Brown's using Encham based on flashes of absolute brilliance. This guy is 20, 25 million quality. And then the next minute you're like, oh, he's £2.50, game away. You know, that wasn't Encham. And as you remember, we had a guy who we turned down 18 million for, and we let him go for nothing. That's not going to happen with Hatate, but who does he remember you of as a player? Is there somebody you look at and go, aye, he's the new such and such?
I can't think off the top of my head.
Certainly not McCarthy, Snitch. And Stuart Slater, not Stuart Slater either. Come on. Be serious here.
I can't think off the top of my head. I really can't. Like I said, I like Rio. I like your physicality.
You know what I'm going to say? Bobby Petr. See, when Bobby Petr wanted it, unplayable.
Yeah.
See, when Bobby Petr didn't want it, mixed bag. Anton comes in with Juninho. Again, undoubtedly, great talent. We didn't see the best out of him.
Yeah. Samaras. Again, he was one of the guys.
Samaras was... I don't know about Samaras. I'm not having
He was
that.
another one of the guys, you love him or you hate him, isn't he? Again, I loved him. I got a lot of stick for sticking by Sammy. He's one of the guys that, when he was on his game, again, was unplayable.
Pat McGinley, amazing player, highly underrated. Henke says, absolutely. Pat McGinley was a fantastic player. He's a great guy and all, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I don't know who we could compare him to. We could sit here and throw players at it all night. I'd love to compare him to somebody like Lubo Moravchuk, but unfortunately that's not going to happen.
You sit down. I'm about to remove you off the screen using the two names in the same bracket here. I know you like him, but come on now, wind it back in.
Yeah, Lubo's my friend now. I get messages from him on a regular basis. Look at me.
Oh, no. I like you name drop, man. Paddy, I spoke to Moravchuk on the phone, did you? Aye. Good for you. Well, but no, like Paddy, let's get back to our eyes on the balls. This is the game tomorrow. Motherwell, 3-5-2. Again, Kettlewell, they might not score a lot of goals, but in terms of how they set up, is 3-5-2 the in vogue formation? Is that just what everybody wants to play there now? As it says, they try to play a relatively midfield heavy and attack-minded team formation for all that they are. As I say, their goals doesn't reflect that attacking setup, but midfield's going to be absolutely swamped. They almost play three holding midfielders, which is a bit of a strange one to say. I say holding. Lennon Miller has that creative spark and the right to roam, and then they've got the other two that sit in beside them. But they've got the midfield's going to be super heavy for us. I think for me, that's what we're going to have to look at getting ourselves over. Defensively, big guys. You've picked out the likes of O'Donnell, who, again, I see some merit in him. I don't think he's particularly mobile. That just begs the questions. I say, do we go with Kyogo's? Kyogo comes straight back in. Are we trying to outspeed these big guys, or are we going to, go for Ida for the start and then flip it up like we did in Bergamo? These are for me are really the only questions. The rest of the team picks itself as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, like he says there, yeah, Motherwell will give us a game. We know what we're going to get when we go there. The 3-5-2 formation, I do quite like it. Obviously, you're three in the defence, and when you are under attack, the wing backs or wingers drop back into a kind of 5-3-2 formation. So, yeah, it works. It's good. It's good. Certainly good for defending teams coming up against us.
Yeah, I was trying to work out the other name, and I'm not even going to say it, right? So, Lennon Miller and Davor Zadrowski. That's the other Ian. He sits in there. Him, Halliday, and Miller. That's the three. And then obviously they've got O'Donnell that they use kind of as we do, someone like a wing back and Ewan Wilson. That's kind of their go-to, the way that they set things up. So I think for us, it's the central three is going to be the main battle, really, to be fair.
Yeah. I think Kyogo caused them absolute carnage. He's fast, he's always alert, likes to play on the shoulder. And if they're playing a 3-5-2, I think with Kyogo playing on the shoulder.
Is Kyogo due a game? Is he due? Because he's another one that I think that Kyogo's been doing okay. It's still early in the season, but I think that because we've been scoring goals a lot from elsewhere, we've been seeing Cal McGregor, for example, chipping in with some absolutely tremendous goals. Nicholas Kuhn's been firing on all cylinders. Kyogo's got a wee bit away with it, isn't it? Because he's scoring goals. He's scored a few goals, but he's not been like on fire. I don't think any of strikers have really been like, it used to be Kyogo's goal for Kyogo every game, at least one. It's just not been happening.
He doesn't have to. When Nicholas Kuhn and Maeda, Cal McGregor, guys like this are whacking the ball in for us. But the runs off the ball that Kyogo makes are second to none. He's tiring the defenders out, he's dragging them away, he's giving opportunities to these other players by his movement. And that's what a lot of people forget. You watch Kyogo off the ball, he's never normally standing still. He's not one of these players that stand still. He's always on the move, he's always on the go. It must be an absolute nightmare for defenders, and especially, like you pointed out, these are big units. At Motherwell, they're big lads, the three centre-backs. So Kyogo is going to cause them absolute carnage. And then similar situation to Bergamo. I think when Kyogo goes off after 60 minutes, 65 minutes, and you bring on Adamida, it's a totally different game again. You've got a different problem to deal with. You've got the chaos ball getting lumped in towards Adamida. And that's
so, Paddy, it's a season at the top of the show. Aberdeen's late show, 86 minutes, scratching out a 1-0, putting ourselves on top of the table with 3 points clear. It was a tough game tomorrow. It was always going to be a tough game. Yes, 4 wins and 2 draws against them in the past 6. We've got the better of them. Obviously, we look towards, or we look back to the game where Ida coming of age and all that, saving the day last season. Huge. Absolutely huge, a pivotal point in our season. We kicked on from there. But a tough challenge just get a wee bit tougher. I am expecting us, with the confidence of the result in Bergamo, to give us that extra yard in our legs, to push us on, and I would expect hopefully a wee bit of positive rotation in the squad. Hopefully there'll be no European hangover. The baddies are at home. They're playing St Mirren. I think a lot of people are writing that off, or they're writing it off because they're back. They're back. You know what I mean? They've beat absolute plankton at home in the Europa League. They've cheated out a goal, by the way. They would have changed the complexion of that game, but that's me being better than another reason. But anyway, they're back. So they'll be breathing down the necks. They'll more than likely, you would probably expect them to scratch a draw. So with that there, with Aberdeen being top, it just sort of sandwiches the pressure a wee bit, does it not? Because you get both games at 3 o'clock going at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. A bit of pressure never hurt anybody. The result across the city as well, let me just tell you right now, that's just papering over the cracks. That's all that's doing.
I am glad for it, by the way, because if it keeps that bumbling idiot in a job, then I am happy.
Come the Aberdeen versus them game on the Wednesday, I think you see a different side. I think Aberdeen will absolutely melt them when that game comes in.
See with that as well, Paddy. I know that we are out 6 points ahead of Rangers getting into the game tomorrow, right? But does that give it a nice wee extra tasty edge where, say, Rangers go 1-0 up, we're sitting at nothing each, Aberdeen on top with 3 points? Does it give it that wee bit more exciting edge, a wee bit more fire?
Yeah, probably. Well, a little bit. The best result for us is probably going to be a draw with them, isn't it? But listen, let's concentrate on us.
Yes.
Tomorrow,
100%.
we go straight into this, and I am more than confident that we've got enough in the tank after coming away from Bergamo with nothing each draw. Totally agree with you there, mate. I think
I like this again. I like this with Brown saying multiple changes. Kuhn, Engels, Johnson could probably drop out. And again, we spoke about McCown, who's mentioned. Perfect tailor-made game for him. Ralston, again, probably tailor-made game for him. Physical. No disrespect to Motherwell, but a battling kind of match. He's not going to be up against silky players, so perfect for him. And then, of course, Forrest, he always comes in and does the job he needs to.
Jamesy does what Jamesy does. You bring him into these games and he always produces the goods. The only one I can't see getting a start is probably Lewis Palmer, which after this hat-trick against Sligo Rovers or whatever it was, I'd like to see him get a wee cameo in there again, see if it was just a fluke or if he has still got something in the tank. I think it'll be a chance for us tomorrow to rest a couple of players like that, like Brown's saying. I'd like to see AJ maybe get a rest. Kuhn, I don't know if they'd rest Kuhn. He's been a talisman in there. He's been the one that we've kind of went to. So, yeah, McCowan, yes, 100%. Ralston, probably. I couldn't see Kuhn getting dropped though, so the Forest part for me is kind of a no-goer. Possibly see him after the 60-minute mark.
Well, as we says, that'll be us for the now. Game at 3 o'clock. Of course, later on, get your clock set because we're back tomorrow night to talk about it. But before we go, there is something I want to bring up because it's important that we do so. And that is, of course, in relation to the passing of Tommy Callaghan. One of our own, unfortunately passed away the other day there. Fantastic servant to the club. For those who don't know a wee bit about Tommy Callaghan, long before my time, but signed for Celtic November 1968 from Dunfermline for which was then a lofty £35,000 or there around that sort of huge money for that. The only player that's been signed twice by Jock Stein. So if you want a endorsement of your talents of the time, that doesn't get any better than that. Of course, he was a wide man. And in terms of Celtic, we got a stat attack for him. Made his debut for Celtic against Thistle and scored in a 4-0 away win. And his last game, Paddy, scoring a goal for Celtic, was one that will be close to our hearts because he scored the winner in a 1-0 win against Albion Rovers in the League Cup in 1968, November 23rd. Us Coatbridge boys. So that's one that is good for ourselves. But of course, our thoughts, prayers go out to Tommy Callaghan's family. As I say, one of our own, a fantastic man. As I say, never got to see the man play, obviously, but anything that I have saw or heard about him has been glowing reports, and he'll be sadly missed. And I am sure that we will have some sort of tribute for him tomorrow at the match, probably the black armbands at least. So one of our own, Paddy, as I say, born a Celtic fan, a Fifer, but Celtic at heart. Yeah,
thoughts and prayers to his family, like you said, Steve. I'd like to see a nice wee minutes of pause or something for him, or for his family to show what it means to support. We've said it many a time, the Celtic family is very tight, and we do look after our own. Once you're a Celt, you're always a Celt. And God bless you, big guy.
Absolutely, Paddy. And of course, what else would be better than a 4-0 Paddy win? That's it. I'll go for that. So
it's going to be 4-0. I seen 420 in there saying it was going to be 6. I think he's getting a bit too ballsy for me. He's throwing ones out there now, trying to outdo the Paddy boy. I'm just going to stick with my 4. I'm quite happy with that. Although I would take a 2. I would maybe even settle for a 1, as long as it's a win. And that's all.
No, definitely. Well, as you say, it's a massive game to get around to tomorrow. Can't wait for it to come in. As I say, hopefully no European hangover. I don't think that after an amazing result, a very positive result, there can be a hangover. There surely is got to be just, you're full of the beans, ready to go, right up for it, want to kick on, because results like Dortmund can deflate you. Results like in Bergamo can only inspire you. That's the way I'm looking at it. So for me, I'm hoping we go out there. I would like a wee bit of rotation. I think that for what we brought on the guys in the European games, says the likes of, and I keep coming back to it, but I think Luke McCowan, I really want to see him start. I wouldn't be against Adam either starting again. I think that Kyogo does what Kyogo does. No matter when he comes on or where he starts, I would like to see Adam Ida. I think we need to start trying to drip feed these guys back in. If we are hopefully cruising and we're ahead, and Carter Vickers in a position to be on the bench, maybe chuck him on for 10 minutes, give him a wee runabout, keep him good to go. But I'm hoping for a steady win. I am going to say 3-1. I don't know why I'm giving them a goal. I'm just giving them a goal for the sake of it. Based on absolutely nothing. But I think 3-1. I think it'll be more than comfortable. I would love to see the baddies drop points tomorrow. I'm not going to hold my breath, of course. But exciting times. We're actually, mate, we're in, at this moment in time, we're in something that resembles a title race. And if that can't G up your players, if that can't get you ready to go and invested, then nothing will. And it's as simple as that. Aberdeen are the fly in the ointment, and we're just going to be the ones that are going to have to come home and swat that fly aside. So, by the end of it tomorrow night, I expect Celtic to be back in top of the league, a couple of more goals better off than we already were, and we'll kick on for there. And we'll look towards the midweek game.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Paddy, cheers for joining me, and you managed to get through it on your absolute crap, cheapo North Sea Wi-Fi, so I love it.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. Well, anyway, thanks to everybody for taking the time to join us. It says, absolute privilege to have you here listening to us. And again, if you're listening to us elsewhere, later, further down the road, thanks again for doing it. Like, subscribe. Get over to Paddy. We've got you on TikTok now as well. We're going mental. We're on Spotify. Go and follow all the pages. Help the community grow, as we say. We're small, but there's plenty of room for rapid expansion. Let's make it happen. So until the next time, take care of yourself. And as always, hail, hail.
Hail, hail, guys.